I've made a point not to attend Holocaust movies in the last several years. Um, it's not that I don't think it's an important topic, but there's very little new to be said, at least dramatically, on the subject. And I find that movies really don't educate me in any new ways. That isn't to say that I don't think they're important and that they don't provide educational purposes for other people, especially people who haven't been exposed to information about the Holocaust. But they are no longer my cup of tea. I broke my rule about this last week and attended a showing of a French film called The Roundup. It was part of the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. And I went because I wanted to enjoy the company of a friend with whom I have not attended a movie lately. So it was an opportunity to do that. I can't say that I was terribly impressed with the film. It was a serviceable dramatization of an important event in the summer of 1943 in Paris, which was the roundup of more than 10,000 Jewish residents of Paris under Nazi orders. And it was a very good recreation of those events. Dramatically, it just wasn't that interesting, although there were a couple of good performances in the film. What was of particular interest to me wasn't so much the film, but the discussion that followed. There was an expert on Holocaust studies from Emory University present, Deborah Lipsvat, and the audience was quite interested in participating in the discussion, not so much of the film, but of the issue matters of the Holocaust in particular, or I'm sorry, I should say in general. Oddly enough, the discussion, at least for the time that I was there, turned to a topic that was only marginally related to the themes of the film, and that had to do with whether the Allied forces had an opportunity to somehow intervene in the industrial process of the death camps that the Nazi regime had set in motion, either by bombing train lines or somehow bombing the camps themselves. And it was sort of surprising that there was so much interest in that particular topic. It's very complicated and probably will never be a settled issue. The question of what the Allies' motives were and whether they could have successfully changed the course of events with regard to the extermination of European Jews is very cloudy. Certainly late in the war, there was not much they could do because most of the annihilation had already occurred. But I was very surprised and I guess disappointed that there was so much interest focused on that particular question. It was as though an insufficient number of villains had been rounded up and an insufficient amount of blame had been handed out with regard to the Holocaust. And it seemed as though there was still a preoccupation with the victimization of Jews by all the parties involved in the war. The odd thing, and I guess a particular disappointment, was that there was a major theme of the movie that seemed to be entirely missed in the question and answer session. And that was not so much that Jews had been rounded up for extermination, which they had, but that a significant number of the quota of Jews that had been set by the Nazis, I think it had been a quota of 24,000 Parisian Jews, a significant number, maybe 13 or 14,000, escaped capture because they were safely harbored by non-Jewish residents of Paris. And to me, this was really the important theme of the movie, and to some extent, maybe more broadly, the important theme of our contemplation of the Holocaust. I've lived a lot of my life in the shadow of the Holocaust and discussions of it because of my own background and my community concerns. There's one lesson which maybe is too obvious, and that is one that seems to have been promoted very effectively, and that is that the Jewish community and the Jewish people need to be on guard and need to look out for themselves, and that anti-Semitism needs to be eradicated, and that Jews need somehow to find a safe home. This was the basis of a large amount of the post-war Zionist impulse. That lesson seems to have been learned, maybe learned all too well. Unfortunately, the other lesson, which the film I think was trying to at least suggest, is that we all need to look out for people other than ourselves. The fact of the matter is that the way you save people in a world where groups are persecuted is to generalize responsibility for their care, and that is to alert all of us to the importance of taking care of other people, people who are different from us, people who don't share our religion, people who don't share our sexual orientation, people who don't share our ethnicity or national origins. And for me, that's always been the more important lesson of the Holocaust. And that's one reason why I've been involved in human rights work for over 25 years. I would like to see that promoted much more strongly with regard to Holocaust lessons. That what we've really learned is that we're all in this together, and that the only way that any of us is safe in the world is for each of us to look out for all people who are in danger or who are persecuted, and to be good custodians of others and people from different communities. So the lesson to me of the Holocaust, and I had hoped the lesson of this movie would have been that human rights is really stopping and thinking about who else's interest we can guard. So, for example, if you're a Jew, maybe the lesson of the Holocaust is that you should be working to make sure that Palestinians on the West Bank don't lose their property or their homes through illegal dispossession. If you're a Muslim person in Egypt, perhaps the lesson of the Holocaust or the broader lesson of human rights is that you need to work to ensure the safety of Coptic Christians within your own country. If you're a man, maybe the lesson of the Holocaust is that you need to work to ensure that women have safe access to reproductive health services. And if you're straight, maybe the lesson of the Holocaust is that you need to work for the insurance of rights of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered people in terms of their pursuit of legal standing and recognition in the community at large. So that's the point of this video. The Holocaust movies and Holocaust studies are very important in the rage and the anger that still exist concerning that horrible event in relatively recent history is understandable. But the lesson isn't about looking out only for people like us, it's looking out for everybody. So I'll close with that note and my own tagline, which I may use more generally, and that is let's remember that we are all in this together.